It must be Thirsty Thursday. Gonna have some coffee, rock chat, and soak up some knowledge together. How does that sound? Just because I have a rock hounding YouTube channel doesn't mean that I don't still have a whole bunch to learn. That's kind of why I like rock hounding, is because we're always learning something. Always something new to learn. All kinds of different things that people can get into, different avenues of rock hounding and hobbying that people can get into. Um, I know that Rocky Mountain Bear had asked me after my close ups video. I find a lot of little tiny fossils in my rocks. And he asked if I had any good suggestions for fossil identification books. And this is one that I have, the Smithsonian Handbook for Fossils. And it's a little bit deep if you're brand new into fossils. There gets to be, I mean, just all kinds of stuff. But you can sit and read this for hours and hours and hours. Hey, Jackie. Yes, I've learned that as well, that learning how to store rocks can be very challenging as well as identifying them. Anyway, I do like this Smithsonian book. This is a good book for fossil identification, but a little bit for the more advanced fossil collector. It has been helpful though in identifying some of my like crinoidal limestone and things like that. So, but some of that is in this other book that I'm going to talk about a little bit today, and that is Rocks and Minerals. Let's see if we can get the spine in here for you. So this is a great book if you know how to use it. Otherwise, you're just flipping through looking at pictures, and it can also be just a little bit overwhelming. So I've watched some other channels and I've seen some other people kind of struggle. You know, is this a petrified wood or is this a granite? Is this a quartz or is this a agate? Is this a jasper or is this an agate? And I gonna do some sharing. Jackie, are you gonna give some of your rocks away? Me too. Pretty rocks are everywhere for us to look at and to share. um yeah, so I want to get into that just a little bit because I'm by no means an expert in any of this. So I want to talk about how we can get better at this together, and how I approach it when I'm not sure. In the meantime, we're just looking at all these pretty rocks while we're kind of waiting for people to jump in if they want to. Um, so there is kind of a fine line between what's an agate, what's a quartz, what's a jasper, and the reason for that is they're kind of like cousins. And don't tell me that you guys haven't put rocks in families like that before in your mind. I have a hi Jeff. Thanks for hanging out with us, having some coffee and chatting about rocks. I've actually commented before when my brother's out with me and stuff that like I'll start finding a particular kind of rock or gravel and I'll be like, these are the cousins or the brothers to the jaspers. Keep your eyes out. Keep your eyes peeled. This is where the jaspers hang out. This is, so anyway, that's a little bit off track of what I'm trying to say here, but don't act like we don't make groups and families and things like that in our minds when we're talking about rocks and where they're hanging out and things. So this book, I bookmarked everything and now can't find where I bookmarked everything. So I'm going to scooch some of these out of the way real quick. Okay. I wonder if I'm even far enough back to try this. Let's see. So I hate to break it to you guys, but it's important to go back to basics. What is an igneous rock? What is a metamorphic rock? What is a sedimentary rock? So this book, sorry, I got money falling out. I actually just found all this money in the fossil book. I forgot it was there, but I used it because I actually have used this book a lot and have a lot of bookmarks and little like donkey ears and things going on throughout it. So, or whatever you call that when you fold the edge of the page. So this book gets into what is an igneous rock, what is a sedimentary rock, and what is a metamorphic rock. And that's important. So that's step one. We're gonna learn about that. Okay. Step two of this book is, now that we've determined, is it igneous, is it metamorphic, or is it sedimentary? Now we're going to look at the grain size. Is the grain size visible to the naked eye? Do you need a jeweler's loupe or do you need a microscope to see the grains in these rocks? If you can see it with your eye, we're going to call it coarse grained. If you need to have a jeweler's loupe to see the grains in these rocks, we're going to call them medium grained. And if you cannot see the grains in these rocks without a microscope, we're going to call them fine grained. Okay, so now we know we have a sedimentary rock. Let's see if I can get my finger. We have a sedimentary rock with a medium grain. And where are we going to look? What might these be? These might be foliated schists, or, you know, whatever. These might be whatever they are. A lot of these I can't even pronounce. Here's one I know: marble and scarn. So it's going to direct you then to what page in this book you're going to want to look for some of those specific things. So let's get right into the troubling question of the day. What is quartz? What is jasper? What is agate? So we can read here. Quartz is one of the most common minerals. Quartz forms in hexagonal prisms, terminated by rhombohedral, or however you say all these great big words. It also can come in some granular concretion and massive styles. It can come in lots of different colors. It can be transparent to translucent. So that's important, transparent to translucent. And it's generally got a grain that we see with the naked eye. Some of these grains are huge, some big prisms and stuff. Some of them a little trickier to kind of get your eye on. Again, some of them huge, some of them a little harder to kind of pick out. Okay, so we turn the page. We kind of brushed up on quartz really quickly. One of the things that I really want to point out there is that we see the grain with our eye. It's kind of a coarse-grained mineral. Then we come over here to what is chalcedony. It's a microcrystalline variety of quartz. Oh, gee, that's helpful. Hey, Slim, I didn't see you pop in there. Isn't that helpful? It usually occurs in the mammillary or botryoidal, so these little bumpity, this one over here is quite body. These little round things. Coming back over here to read some more. The color is highly variable. It may be white, blue, red, green, brown, black. Varieties of chalcedony include jasper, an opaque form of agate. So there we go. There is the definition of jasper. If it's opaque, which means that the light does not shine through it, it may, you know, kind of, if you really, really look close, shine through the first little bit of it, but does not shine through it. It's an opaque mineral. Where were we? which may be red, brown, black. Varieties of chalcedonian, jasper, opaque, agate, a form of which form banding in different colors, moss agate, which is dark dendritic patterns, chrysoprase, which is a green variety, and onyx, which has the banding in parallel patterns. Carnelian is red to reddish brown. Sard is light to dark brown, and there is a white streak. Okay, so it's transparent to translucent or an opaque mineral, and it has a viscous to waxy luster. So those are all very important things when it comes to identifying what's the difference between a jasper, an agate, and a quartz. A lot of times we can see through quartz, we can see through agate. The difference is the grains and the structures, and then jaspers, which can resemble agates with their banding and things like that. They do resemble. They're both a microcrystalline quartz, but the difference is that jasper is opaque and you cannot see through it. So there's kind of my brief how to tell the difference between a quartz, an agate, and a jasper. I could be way wrong, but that's kind of how I've come to that determination, is with the help of this book, the help of other rock hounds, lots of Google and things like that. But yeah, they're right next to each other in the book. Quartz on one page, its prettier cousin on the next page. So, and then we have things like, petrified wood, that can be agatized, and some fossils can be agatized, and things like that. Quartz can be in other rocks can be in other quartzes. I mean, there's all kinds of variation and variety out there that we could dig into for days and days and days, but that's a great book. A great book. Like I say, I've bookmarked the heck out of this for things that I find commonly around here and want to know more about and want to refer back to regularly. So I do use the heck out of this book. Everybody's got their own thing, but that's the one that I use a lot. So what is it? Is it an agate? Is it a jasper? Without a torch to backlight some of these, we could argue that a lot of these go either way or are a mixture of both, but I would call this an agate. And it's got a pretty pink color to it too. It's a rock for sure. I could definitely get on board with that. Nobody can argue that. You're right in saying it's a rock. That's a safe play. And everything in this universe is either a rock or not a rock. Here's a good example of a conchoidal fracture. I say agate as well. Which is another thing that I didn't really touch on, was how these rocks fracture. A conchoidal fracture is a really good giveaway that you're looking at an agate, an opal, jasper, something that is microcrystalline. But boy, the color sucks in here. Is that just my screen over there? Yeah, it's not horrible. At least the focus is kind of behaving. How about this one? Chert! On this one? It's an agate. It's an agate for sure. On this one? It's an agate. What about this one, though? This? The first one. I bought a Mongolian eye agate. It looks exactly like this small red potato. Cool. I like that. That sounds fun. I would call this a jasper. It's an odd one for sure. Again, you're kind of, drawing hairs sometimes. Here, let's get a bunch of these in here. Maybe not that one. Yeah, why not? What is that? Anybody have any ideas? To focus. Hang on, let me see if I can fix that for you guys. Yep. I hear chert often. What is chert? Okay, chert is, again, there's a fine line between chert and jasper sometimes. I have some chert that is less pretty, and some that is more pretty. Let's see if I can find you some chert here real quick. I would call this chert, but this is some nasty chert. It's on some kind of a nasty host, but I would call this chert, and I would call this banded chert. And I get a lot that's actually really pretty. This is, like I say, pretty dried out, kind of nasty crap. Not the prettiest of chert, but what I call chert, and again, I could be wrong. Why can I not find a piece of this all of a sudden? Hang on, let me see. Ah, there we go. That would be a good example. It can be really pretty. It can be almost, it can be almost like jasper. My finger just screwed the focus up there. That's not terrible. But and it can be beautiful. It will take a polish and be absolutely stunning. It can come in many different colors. It can come in blues, grays, browns, tans, lots of different colors, reds, oranges. But to me, a chert is just it's on the border. It's just not quite as nice as jasper, in my opinion. It's a little less fancy. They're the same. They're the same. Chert and jasper are the same. We just call jasper because it sounds prettier. And I tend to think that the ones that are more polished are more jaspery, but chert, I mean, this is not my best example of it either, but I've got it everywhere. I keep a lot of it. It's really, really, really hard to cut. I'm going to tell you that right now. Montana agates, jasper, and chert are all some of the most miserable stuff to cut that you could ever come across. So I think then that we can talk a little bit about that. If they're colorless, are they an agate or are they a chalcedony? Awesome. Let's see, I've missed a little bit. Is if it came from the limestone here in Minnesota. Yes. Okay. Yes. I think you're right about that, Jackie. I kind of call my chert if it is a little more like limestoney than it is on the agate side of things. Yes. And then if that limestone baked long enough in the oven, then it will turn into things like marble and agate and jasper and things like that. Okay. If it's clear, is it chalcedony? If it's that orange color, is it chalcedony? If it's got dendrites and things in it, is it moss agate? I mean, there's just so many different drops in buckets, ways that you could split hairs. This one's full of that tiny little fossil stuff, but very much so, jasper agate? An agate. I would call it an agate. And it's definitely, like I say, got agatized little stuff in it. So, just, what's this? Chert? I'll call that one a chert. We could maybe call it a jasper. A jagate. Ooh, I like that. That's my new favorite word. It's a jagate. Or like Kate's uses the word quagget quite a bit, where it's an agate with the quartz pocket in it or whatever, right? Or, quartzy milky agate. This is definitely quartz. Let's, we can see the grains with our eyes. And it's got some stuff in it. It's got some pyrites and stuff in it. And it's even got a garnet in it. But definitely quartz. No doubt about that. Some of the rest of these, though, like this part here looks awful jaspery because it is opaque. No light's going to shine through it. But there's bits up here that are pretty agate-y. Light shines right through it, no problem. Is it just a fancy agate? I have a fun story to tell you about garnets. So there's another one we could argue about. Get him in here. I'd say agate right here, jasper the whole rest of the way. Oh, maybe agate right there too. Anyway, so I'll let you guys kind of look at these while we visit. So there's a place here in Montana called Garnet Ghost Town. And we went and visited when I was a kid. See if I can make sure you guys are focused on some of those at least a little. And when I was a kid and we went to visit, we took a family vacation down there. Well, we were kind of passing by on our vacation. So we stopped in and we wandered through the ghost town. And my dad said that when he was fresh out of college, he had taken some kind of a job that required them to stay very near Garnet Ghost Town. I cannot remember what the heck they were doing. Building a bridge, welding a bridge, something. I can't remember what he was doing. But there was like a man camp out in the woods near Garnet Ghost Town, okay? And they had an outhouse, and the guys were just screwing with each other, and every time this guy went out to use the outhouse, they would come by and throw the door open, scare the heck out of this guy. And they had this guy convinced that it was like ghosts, like the Garnet Ghost Town was just downstream from them, and that it must be ghosts messing with him, right? And I don't remember how in the heck they managed all of this to get this guy so worked up, but Dad said that finally one night he was laying in his camp just down a ways, and he could hear that guy just screaming his head off. And he'd finally just decided to take a gun into the crapper with him, and you could hear him in there just bang, bang, bang. And he said he shot several times into the dark and into the night and didn't hit anything, but that he was up and off the job the very next day. So it just drove him to madness. But Garnet Ghost Town, when we were there and looked at it, it's kind of a cool little thing. If you guys have never been to a ghost town and never checked any of that stuff out, there are quite a few of them here in Montana. There's all of the like Virginia City, Nevada City, all of that stuff that's kind of toury. It's kind of staged, set up and toury, where Garnet Ghost Town was kind of more as it was. It's a little bit staged, but it seems more natural. So anyway, I love living in Montana and growing up in Montana and seeing these little places as little stops between here and there. And yeah, some of that stuff that still lives on, some of those stories that still live on, and things that they're just neat. It's neat. There's a lot of local history here, and I can delve into some of that sometimes and have a blast with it, getting to know some of why is it called Pratt's Canyon? Because old Pratt was murdered up there, and they didn't find him until, the following spring, because the snow was so deep they couldn't even go look for him. So now it's still called Pratt's Canyon. Anyway, yes, Slim, and grab some videos so we can see what you're up to. I'm freezing this morning. I don't know if you guys can hear me kind of shivering every now and then over here, but I'm freezing and I can't wait. Like when I get done here, finally, okay, we've been under so much smoke for the last couple of days from all of the fires up in Canada that you can barely see a mile down the road, and it's just gross. It's like almost burns your eyes. So today the skies are clear, the sun is out. It's just a little chilly this morning, but I can't wait to go soak up some sun and go get some rocks. When you look at a rock face and see hundreds of garnets, it's amazing. Yes, yes. And we find garnets in our rocks out here. That's not the best example, but it's what I had handy. Yeah, it's a bummer. It's way too early to be that smoky out here. I mean, it was just a couple of days for me, thank goodness. It's like I say, the winds have changed a little and we're clear today, but if it were July, I'd expect it to be so smoky that I couldn't see, see my hills just outside of town, but I couldn't see them the other day, and it's not July, so it's way too early for that crud. But yeah, anyway, we just find an amazing variety of rocks up here. It's a ton of fun. I was talking about something before the garnet thing, local history and stuff, I think, but I don't know. I'm freezing. I can't wait to go outside, soak up some sun, go find some rocks. Connecticut is the garnet state. That's cool. That's cool. Yeah, you never knew that they were there. But like I never knew that I knew that Montana was the treasure state. You can find almost every, agates, garnets, sapphires, gold, silver. You can find, copper, everything, everything in Montana. But I actually didn't know that you could find so much of that out here on the prairie. I thought to find agates you had to be on the Yellowstone if you want to find in it. I don't find sapphires out here, not anything that I would recognize in abundance anyways, but I thought you do have to go to special places to find sapphires and things like that. But yeah, I was shocked when I found out you could find agates out here on the prairie. Jaspers and things I didn't know. And I find all kinds of stuff that still blows my mind. So can we talk about this for a minute? Not in focus at all. Here, where's my screen? Guys, want to take any guesses about what this stuff is? Does anybody? Emerald and tourmaline. Yeah, see, and if I want emerald and tourmaline, I kind of have to either go pay to dig or, buy some stuff to pan here on the back porch or, whatever. Was a garnet about the size, a dime-sized garnet. Awesome. Yeah, for sure, Slim. Why not? And check them out under a black light. Sometimes they're kind of neat under a black light. So top right third, I'd say, is common opal. This one, or the other way around, this one. Top right. This is my right. All of those. I think all of those are common opal. Who said that first, by the way? Slim. Yeah, so Slim has said before that he thinks he finds some common opal when he's out rock hounding. I do too. A lot of it is this like mustard color, which is actually, I like it. I think it's really pretty. A lot of way that I can tell if it's common opal is it's so light, and they really almost have a plastic kind of sound when you click them together, where a lot of your agates and chalcedonies, you can hear a big difference in a lot of how they sound. So I know that sound is kind of a weird thing, but without you guys being able to hold this in your hand, I think that's a good demonstration. These together, you know, they have a different sound. They have a different look. So let's talk about, you know, this is a microcrystalline something, quartz or opal or whatever, because I cannot see the crystals without a microscope. This here almost has a little bit of flash or fire to it here. So I do find on the very rare occasion a piece of this that might be considered pretty or interesting. These, I like the white and orange colored ones too. They're kind of fun. But I like the mustard brown ones too. Army green, whatever color you want to call that. But what about this one? I had to convince myself for a long time that that's what this is, because it's so blue and it's so pretty. Almost black up here. I have cut some. They suck. They just aren't pretty. They aren't really worth it. They're prettier just like that than they are if I can do anything. And not so much that they fracture, they're just shit polish. They're just not very fun. Here's a little piece of it that I kind of practiced on, worked on. They suck. They're just not. The light shines through them. They're pretty. And I picked a junkier piece because I wanted, you know, I didn't want to ruin something that I love, but it's just, they suck to polish. They undercut, they overcut, they undercut, they overcut, any little discrepancy, any little tiny thing shows up in here, something fierce. So they're not fun to polish. If I could get a piece, you know, that would be really pretty, be worth making a piece of jewelry out of, I'd love to, because opal is my mom's very favorite stone. And if she could have a local opal, she'd be pretty thrilled. So back to this one. This is one of my favorite pieces, you guys. And yeah, I do truly believe that is opal, but how pretty is it? Blue? Blue, white. This was one of the first pieces of opal I found, and it, like I say, I had a really, 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 really hard time convincing myself that that is what in fact I had found. Again, I didn't know you could find opal. It is easy to cut. It's just sucky to polish. I don't know if I'm too heavy-handed for it, or if I'm just not patient enough for it, or if I did push some of my last polishing wheels probably beyond what I should have, and was really struggling and stuff, and I finally sunk some money into some new polishing wheels. But that's when I finally got brave enough to try it. Was after I'd plumb wore everything out. So, you know, I can't say that I hate it and that I shouldn't come back to it and try it again. Maybe I will. But for now, I just, no. And I was using my flat lap, and I was kind of scared to dome and shape things. I was sticking to kind of flat shapes when I cut and polished on this. But yeah, agates, jaspers, things like that are kind of, like I say, miserably hard to cut, and they take forever to polish. And I plumb wore my crap out. My blades, my polishing wheels, I wore them out on the hardest stuff I could, you know, the hardest stuff known to man, the hardest stuff in existence. And then finally went and tried some of this. And like I say, I don't know if I'm just too heavy-handed, so used to cutting and polishing such hard material that I just, or if I, like I say, I'd worn my material out, my tools and equipment plumb out, I should definitely give it another chance, another try. But for now, I wasn't thrilled with what I came up with at all. Just there, I'm being honest with you guys. Wasn't thrilled with how it cut and polished and what I came up with it. This piece, you guys, like I say, this is my favorite. This thing just blows my mind. I cannot believe that I found this. And I found it here, you know, like what? My kid is highly upset. They just did their rock identification. I don't know. I didn't find it in water. So should I keep it in water? It's dry. It's bone dry out here on the prairie, which is where I found it. And I found it bone dry. I mean, it's as stable as it's going to be, right? It's not deteriorating in any way. But I mean, was it a piece of wood? Why such this opaly potchy outside? It blows my mind. I look at this sometimes and I'm like, how, why, how? Love. I know, right? I can't bring myself to cut it. I cannot. There really could be some play in there. You're right. It's hard to tell with that crust on the outside, and I've spent hours looking at it with a light shining through it. It's beautiful. It's almost green up here. It's, you know, blue. It's, oh, lust, love, lust. Beautiful right here. There really might be, but if there isn't and I whack it in half, cry. So I just love looking at it the way it is. I've left it the way it is. I've got jars full of this stuff, you guys. Tons and tons. This one's cool. I love this little piece. Okay, so I started saying it could be. Nah, probably not. You know. So I do find, like I say, jars and jars full of this stuff. And my kid just about got in a fight with this science teacher. It was last fall, I think, was it not? I'm not sure. I can't remember. So they did a rock identification project, and oh, you know, I know quite a few of I know all the kids in my kids' classes. You know, our school is very tiny up here. It's like 20 kids per grade. And so my kid, they got, you know, here's your orders. You got to do it fractures so easy. Yeah, Slims, a lot of my stuff does fracture too. These are some bigger, nicer chunks of it. I've got some stuff that's like super friable. But anyway, I want a big saw. I have just a little guy. So they did their rock collection and their rock project, and a lot of the other kids were cracking jokes, and my kid relayed the message, brought it home, and told me that, you know, oh yeah, one of my friends asked, can they collect rocks at Caden's mom's house? And she was like, no, I want you guys to go collect them out of the field. I want, you know, and it can't be quartz. And I was like, can't be quartz. Everything is quartz. So they went and did their rock collecting and whatnot. But yeah, my kid had taken her in some rocks, or that somebody had found a piece that was similar to, and he mentioned that this common opal, and she argued with him that was quartz all the way, and he's like, it's common opal. And she's like, it's quartz. And he's like, well, you're right too, but so am I. I mean, it is quartz. He's like, but it's, I'm saying that it's microcrystalline quartz, that it's common opal. And she's like, no, it's quartz. You're wrong. And he was so mad. He came home and just chat. He followed me around the house and chatted my ear off. Mom. Yeah, Al Gold, I did actually. And I looked through some of my stuff to see if I could find some that were similar to yours. And I struggled a little bit, but yeah, we kind of did a why quartz, why agate, why jasper, why we call them different things when they're so similar to each other. We looked at the rock identification book, and then we kind of poked at some of these rocks, like, is it a quartz? Is it an agate? Is it a jasper? And what is the difference in the two? Where do you split hairs? Where do you draw lines? I think we could probably argue eternally about some of those definitions and terms and how they should be properly used. So, but yes, I did. I think you've got some very interesting rocks there, like the red and yellow one that you had that you cut it open and it kind of looked like steak. Like, I'd say that's probably a jasper. And you say that they're very hard to cut. That's indicative of jasper as well. A lot of, okay, so, and I kind of wanted to type this in the comment to you, Al, that I've noticed when things are quartzy and the grains are huge, you can see the grain with your eye. Even if they're just a little less grainy, but still quartzy, I've noticed that the bigger the grains are, the more you can see the grains with your eye, the easier the stone is to cut. And the more microcrystalline they get, the more compact and tight those grains get to each other, the less gap there is between them, the less chunky they are, the harder they get to cut. That's just something that I've noticed. The bigger the grain, the easier it is to cut. Smaller grain, the harder they are to cut. I don't know if that rings true for every stone out there, but yeah, the more microcrystalline, the tighter packed, the smaller those crystals get, the harder things tend to get to cut. So yeah, I think, when I cut a quartz, I know I cut a quartz. When I cut something that's not an agate or a jasper, I sure know it. It's like, woo, that was fun. That was like easy breezy, beautiful quartzy rock. But you go to cutting some agates and some jasper and stuff, and I've bent blades getting impatient and mashing them through, and I've half cut rocks and gave up and tossed it in the pail and been like, yeah, maybe I'll come back and try to cut that again, but I mashed it too hard and bent the blade, and now I've got a crooked cut in my rock. And so some of this stuff is just so unimaginably difficult to cut and do stuff with. Other stuff though, like the opal, like you say, it cut nice. It was easy to cut, even though my blade was haggard and trashed. But yeah, it's just such a different material that I'm not used to, how soft and how, yeah, I struggled to get anything that I liked to come out of that. But yeah, I did that close-ups video. I don't know if you guys have seen that yet, where I'm showing you guys a lot of those little tiny fossils that I find in a lot of my jaspers and things. Cherts can be really, you can find a lot of little fossils like that in a lot of cherts too. That's kind of common for chert and jasper. I don't know how entirely common it is for agate to be full of little fossils like that, but I do find a lot of it up here. But that light yellow red one you can see through was easy to cut. Yes, I actually think that was probably a quartz. That red one that kind of had was shaped like this one, but just longer. And it was like darker than the rose quartz that you had identified, but almost so dark that you could almost not see through it. Al, yeah, I think that one was a quartz, and I think that the orange red one that you cut was probably a jasper. Again, where do you draw the line? It's so tricky. Excuse me. Yeah, I did watch. I didn't want to comment a whole paragraph back, but so I'm glad you kind of popped in today and we could visit a little bit about it. But yeah, anybody want to help Al Gold identify some of his rocks, go watch his video and see if you can help him tell the difference in some of what he's got there. It's tricky. I agree. So, you take some suggestions from the masses, you throw your idea out there. You're like, I think this is, a jasper or a quartz or whatever. And if the masses are like agreed, then you know you're on the right track. And if people are like not so sure that that's not, you know, a jasper or an agate, or then you kind of re-examine what you're looking at there. Go back, hit your book, go back. What is an igneous rock? What is a metamorphic rock? What is a, you know, sedimentary rock? Is it fine grained, medium grained, or coarse grained? And then what are those rocks? You know, what are those microcrystalline quartzes? What are the fine grained quartzes? What are the coarse grained quartzes? That, you know, we're going to break them down now into, you know, further and further down into categories, further and further separating them from each other. But yeah, it gets a little tricky. We could call it quartz, all of these quartz, and we're right. But like my kid and his teacher, you're right and I'm right, but why can't we agree to say that that's common opal, or to say that that's agate, or to say, because a lot of times they're all mashed up together. You get jaspers with agate banding running through them. You know, both terms are right. Or you get a petrified wood that is agatized, you know, or opal. Like, wow, 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 and wow. So yeah, this book though has been super, super, super duper helpful to me in identifying some of and I don't retain it all. I wish I retained it better. Bryzoinal limestone, I think, is one that I found here, and I've called it crinoids before, and I've been wrong. Oh, that was another thing I wanted to say about this book, is that while this is not a fossil book, it does touch on some fossils. So I know, like I say, Rocky Mountain Bear had asked if I had suggestions for fossil books. And while I have that other fossil book I use it less than I use this rock book. I use this rock book all the dang time. The limestones. Where are they at here? If I use the glossary, I'd find it faster, but no, instead I just turn the pages and poke, like hoping I find what I'm looking for here. All right, I'll use the glossary. Limestones, 223. You guys are so patient and cool. Hanging out while I babble about. Oh, yeah, these are great. These are fun. Let's look at these. Oh, let's see. Yeah, exactly. Bang your head. Quartz conglomerate. You know, and then it's just talking about, here's some sandstone matrix with some little quartz pieces. I've found one or two of those. Here's another conglomerate that I maybe have found. I've definitely found a conglomerate or a breccia that looks like this before. Limestone breccia. I've found one or two of those before as well. So it does get into some of the oh, where I want more limestones though. Some of the mixes that you can find in rocks, like it's gonna get into a garnet and peridot mix, or you know, like they'll be like I don't know if this actually exists, but like a garnetic limestone, they'll call it, you know, because it's limestone that's heavy in garnet or whatever. Like I say, I don't know if that's actually a real thing. It's probably not. They're not very similar. Limestone, limonite, breccia, limonite sandstone, 227, 223, 224. We should have been there. We should have kind of seen some more of them there. 224, 2, oh, yeah, there we go. Yeah, there's what I'm looking for. Sorry about that. That took me a minute. Let's see. I'm wondering what am I missing in the chat in the meantime. Cool. Okay, so moving on. Here is a crinoidal limestone. Crinoidal limestone, so you can see the little pieces of... I knew that was coming. Hang on, let me fix that. You can see the little pieces of crinoid in there. My rock anchor failed me over here. All right. Okay. To a bryozoinal limestone. So this I do find some of as well. And if you look right here, do you see that little like half circle guy? Let's see, I got a wicked glare. Paper is terrible. No, that's worse. This guy right here. He's a little bryozoan, and I do find some of those, and I call them crinoids, and I think I miscall those sometimes. I call them crinoidal limestone, and they're actually a bryozoinal limestone, bryozoan. Here's a coral limestone. I find a bunch of that. This shelly limestone, I don't find as much of that here. So, but yeah, that helps me to identify some of the fossils that I find in the limestone. And again, this is not a fossil book. This is my rock and mineral identification book. So I think that's helpful in a lot of ways in identifying rocks. Like I say, we're going to get into some tuft. We're going to get into some freshwater limestone. What are those? How do you even say that? Nummulitic limestone. I definitely find some of that kind of stuff out here from time to time as well. So, and then if you want to, you know, really get it a deep dive into some of the extra information that this book is giving you, this is a sedimentary rock. It's marine in origin. It's got a fine grain. It's you know, invertebrates and angular. Sometimes they'll tell you in the reading here, you know, what for, are they Cretaceous? Are they Jurassic? Are they, you know, so sometimes they'll dig into that a little bit for you in some of these details too. But what a cool book, huh? It gives you just all kinds of information. A lot of the mineral specimens that are in here, or rock specimens that are in here, will tell you how to test if this is a this, that, or the other. Excuse me, I needed to sniff my nose. Whether it's telling you to do a streak test, or this is a radioactive mineral, would this is radioactive. Also, you know, if it's soluble in salt, I can't get my arm bent that way. Soluble in hydrochloric acid and fuses easily. So it tells you sometimes how to test if these rocks are what you think they are or not. Again, it's always going to give you a hardness on all of these rocks, that the rocks. These are all phosphates on these pages. Here's, you know, phosphates, the hardness, fracture and cleavage, specific gravity. So this is a really great book. If you're, you know, you want to learn about rocks and minerals, I tend to just kind of flip through it and pick some of the stuff that I'm going to find here, learn more about those things. You know, unfortunately, I don't find variscite here. It forms where water rich in phosphate has altered aluminum rich rocks. That's how variscite is formed, by the way, in case you didn't know that. I didn't. See, we learned something together today. Yeah. So, yeah, I think this is just, you know, why not? Oh, here. This is the kind of stuff that Al's finding that he should be sharing with the rest of us. Not the kind of stuff I find out here. Do we want to know about Beryl? Al? Oh, it is super similar to quartz in a lot of ways as I read this. It may be colorless, white, green, emerald, yellow, pink, red, blue, aquamarine. The streak is white, beryl is transparent, translucent, forms in pegmatites and granites, and in some regionally metamorphosed rocks. It fuses with difficulty, rounding the edges. Small. Okay, cool. So its fracture is uneven to conchoidal. Its cleavage is indistinct. It's got a specific gravity of 2.6, 2.9. It's hard, 7 or 8 on the Mohs. Yeah, wow. And then tourmaline. Transparent to opaque and has a viscous luster. Okay, so there's some differences between beryl and tourmaline. Beryl tends to be transparent to translucent. Tourmaline tends to be translucent to opaque with a viscous. Okay, well, there, let's see. Again, we're learning things together, guys. I could sit here and read these books all day and just geek out on it. You know, tourmaline, hardness 7 to 7.5. So beryl's just a smidge bit harder than tourmaline is, but... And then beryl, again, just a little more translucent than tourmaline. I like tourmaline better, honestly. I think it's prettier. I don't know, in the pictures there anyway. So, yeah, it doesn't cover every rock or every combination of rocks in the entire whole wide world, because no book on the face of this earth could ever do that. But it will tell you that these things are often formed with these other rocks associated with minerals such as quartz, feldspar, mica, you know. So it'll tell you where these things are kind of being formed. This is a great book. I could, like I say, we could sit and just turn pages. The fossil book too. I could just sit and turn pages and like read about what are these? These are he's a gastropod of some kind, I'd say, because I can't say that word up there. But yeah, I could come through here, and this one's fun too because it gives you an occurrence. You know, 3 shells means kind of common. 2 shells means way less common. 1 shell means way less common. It's, you know, the order of, the class of, the range of, Precambrian, early in Cambrian distribution. So this is a cool book too. It's set up a lot like the other one, where it's going to give you an introduction to fossils in the very beginning, and then how to use this book, you know, keys for fossil identification in the beginning here. And then it'll just get you right into it. Let's go. Fossil bonanza. Fossils for days. Like I say, I could look at this forever and ever and ever and dream big that I'm going to go find something super fun. And then it gets me itching too, where I'm looking at this and I'm like, have I not found something like that, honestly, in my rocks before? What is that? And then I got to go get a rock that I think I've seen that in and strap on my Optivisor and have a closer look. Or have I really never found a rock that looks like that? Boy, that looks really familiar. You know, so I look through some of this stuff and it gets me itching to either find it or to, you know, also see something like I say that I'm like, ooh, I think I've found one of those before, and I'll go ripping through my rocks and see if I can find it, or ooh, I see this pattern in my rocks a lot. So that's how I use my rock and mineral identification books. I don't use this one as often, like I say, and this is more just a deep dive. I really do enjoy flipping through this and just reading about the fossils, where they come from. Oh, there was a page in this book that I really wanted to share with you guys too. It's really cool. Ah, there it is. Okay. This is super interesting, the geological time chart, because it's going to start up here in the, pardon me, in the Cambrian, Ordovician, all the way on, Cretaceous, Triassic, Jurassic, okay? And then it just shows you like the explosion of, and it's divided into the vertebrates, the invertebrates, and the plants. And then it just shows you how that through time has exploded into, you know, things like corals and jellies or trilobites, or, and then where do these fit in? You know, where do trilobites fit in into this, you know, time scale? So I thought that was kind of a cool little picture, little diagram. Took me a second, you know, flipping through. I was like, what is this and how do you read it? But once I got it, like vertebrates, invertebrates, plants, and then the time scale up the other side here, I was like, that's cool. That's really kind of cool. So anyway, yeah. Check out some books if you have not. Check out some rocks if you have not. Go out, like some rock hounding channels, leave some lovely comments, because we really are a great community. Really, really super awesome bunch. And here we did our Thirsty Thursday morning. We had some coffee and some rock chat. We hung out together. We learned some things. And yeah, we're going to do it again soon. The Northwest, no, the Northwest is where things are beautiful. Trees grow in the Northwest, and the mountains are in the Northwest. I'm right in the very north central, like literally the very middle of the state, but as far north as you can go. I'm almost up in Alberta. If I threw a rock hard enough, I could probably pitch one right across the border, right into Canada. So, yeah. The west part of Montana is beautiful. That's the Rocky Mountains. The east part is like the Hell Creek Formation, where they dig dinosaur bones and stuff. Gets really flat. What's neat about Montana is that the Rocky Mountains, where'd that thing go again? The Rocky Mountains have pushed us up, okay? And so let's just say that in reality, like if there was never, gosh, my poor nose is just running. If there was never any earthquakes, volcanoes, any change, let's just say that the layers in the soil would stack up like this, right? And they would never, you know, you'd have to start here and dig all the way down to get to Cambrian, right? But what happens is, just like this piece of paper, when the Rocky Mountains uplift, and I'm going to hold it this direction because it makes sense to me, that the mountains are in the west side of the state, all of the Rocky Mountains, and then the whole east side of the state is flat as crap. And just like bending this page, when the Rockies rise, it stretches all of these layers out across the state. So the Rockies are most recent, you know, this most recent layer. And as we go farther and farther down the Rockies and out into the plains, we get this uplift where it has literally stretched all that material out and up into the Rockies, and we're left with a lot of this really cool Jurassic material and things where we can go dig fossils and things where we can find marine fossils. And so the west side of the state is great for fishing, camping, hiking, recreating. And the east side of the state is great for rock hounding and getting sunburnt and windblown. The west side of the state is for all the tourists. That's Glacier Park. That's all the beautiful things like that. And the east side of the state is where you go when you lose a bet. All right, I'm just being funny now. But no, I live right in the middle. I've got, you know, the Rocky Mountain foothills are just a short drive to my west, and like the Hell Creek Formation where Jack Horner digs dinosaur bones is just a short drive to my east. So, and then Canada, you know, Dinosaur State Provisional Park, it's right to my north, you know, less than 45 minutes up north. So I live in kind of a little mecca here, a well-kept secret. We're all full, no vacancies. Okay, maybe one or two of you could come live here if you really wanted to, but it's not for wimps. It's cold, it's windy. You got to drive an hour and a half to go see a doctor. You've got to drive an hour and a half to go get a replacement cell phone. You know, an hour and a half to the nearest Walmart. It's 45 minutes to the nearest McDonald's. You know, yeah, an hour and a half to the nearest Walmart. So you've got to be willing to deal with some of that to live here. But I love it. I love it here, and I get first pick at all the rocks. Rock hounding is not a common hobby up here. You get the side eye from a lot of people for the first few times, and then, like I say, they start asking, "What are you doing out there? I saw you out on the side of the road the other day. What are you doing?" And I tell them, "I'm looking for rocks. I find a lot of petrified wood, fossils, and agates out here." And they're like, "Oh." So I've got kind of a reputation now. People don't worry anymore about me, what I'm doing. They know I'm looking for rocks. And yeah, you should go look for rocks too, because I didn't know I could find agates, and I can. Al is out there finding barrels and things, and he didn't know that he could until he did. You know, Slim is going to go make a dual purpose trip. He's going to go see some family and do some rock hounding. Take the family rock hounding with you, Slim. So yeah, go out. Watch Al Gold's video. See if you can help him identify a couple of his rocks. Give him some helpful hints and you know, kindly nudge him along if you have any advice at all. I did the best I could today. I don't think I was at all helpful, but I did what kind of want to talk about it. Today's episode was because of Al Gold, actually. So talking about the book and quartz and agate and jasper and how they're very closely related to each other. They're all family. So yeah, anyway, that kind of sums it up. Go out, like some videos, leave some lovely comments, come back for the next video, the next live here. Thanks for hanging out, guys. You're the best. You rock. Go do something that rocks. Rock on. Yeah, and we'll tell more stories. We'll hang out with each other and just, yeah, I love it. Love it. Thanks for joining us, DS. Thanks for joining everybody who I may have acknowledged or not acknowledged. Bahoot, is it Bahoot? Bahat? Bahoot? Jalokia? Jalokia. I like the way that rolls off my tongue. Jalokia. But yeah, who else is in here that I haven't said hi to or bye to? If you're here and I missed you, I'm sorry. I appreciate you. Slim was here. Yes. Al Gold was here. Yes. I feel like we're missing somebody. There was somebody here in the very get-go. Jackie! Jackie was here for a minute. That's right. Yes, I appreciate you guys. I appreciate you very much, and all of the Rock family. We're a great crew. So cheers to you. Cheers to me. We'll do this again where we will see many more rocks. Pretty rocks out on the prairie. Have a good one. Boot, boot. I like that. But can I give it a little boot? Can I put a little U sound in it so that it rolls like Jalokia? Love you guys. Thanks for joining. Look forward to seeing you in the rest of the chats through the rest of the week and around. And thank you, thank you. Pretty rocks out on the prairie. Pretty rocks are everywhere. Pretty rocks for us to look at. Pretty rocks are everywhere. Go find some rocks. Go do some cool things. Spread the love. Rock on.